Here in this figure, a boiler cell is shown to you, which is used to store steam at a very high pressure. So there are two kind of joints. One is called the longitudinal and other is called the circumferential joint. So this joint, which is along the length of the shell, is called the longitudinal joint, and which is along the circumferential direction, it is called the circumferential joint. So here what is happening in this case, the boiler plate is bent in the form of a ring, and these two ends are joined together with the help of the butt joint. Okay. So this is a double strap butt joint because we use two cover plate here, one on the upper side and other on the lower side. And on the one side we have the two rows of rivet, and on the other side again we have two rows of rivet. So this is called the double riveted double strap but longitudinal butt joint basically. And here in this, see, this joint which is along the circumferential direction is called the circumferential boiler joint, and this is used to join two boiler cells together and to increase the length of the boiler cell. Basically here one shell is overlapped to the other cell, and with the help of this circumferential joint we can make a connection between these two cells basically. Let us understand how to design these joints in this video. The first step is to find out the boiler cell thickness, T. So here in this figure a boiler cell is shown to you, and the inside diameter of this boiler cell is ds, or sometimes it is denoting by the symbol di. This boiler cell stored steam at pressure P. Sometimes this symbol is called as Pi. When this high pressure steam is stored inside this boiler cell, so because of this steam pressure there should be chances that this boiler cell will burst into two halves. So this is the upper half and this is the lower half. And this area which is shown by the shaded lines, and this area will offer some resistance to this type of failure basically. So when this area offers some resistance, so some stresses are developing across this cross section or across this area, and this stress is denoting by the symbol sigma t, that is normally we called as hoop stress. The thickness of the boiler cell is T and the length of this boiler cell is L. So this area offers some resistance. This is the left side area and this is the right side area. Both the area will offer some resistance. So we have to equate the force which are exerted by this steam pressure P, and we have to equate this force with the force which is, or the resistance which is offered by this material. So P into ds into L, P is the pressure and this is the area, ds into L is the projected area, okay, because ds is the diameter of this one and L is the length of this one. So ds into L is the area and multiplied by P. So this is the force which are exerted by the steam pressure, and that should be equal to sigma T into 2TL. Sigma T is the hoop stresses into area is 2TL, because the TL is the area on the left side and TL is the area on the right side. So this is twice TL. So from this expression we find the value of T, that T should be equal to P ds divided by 2 sigma T. Sometime in this formula this P is written as Pi and this ds is written as di basically. So whenever the efficiency of the joint is given to us, then T should be equal to P ds divided by 2 sigma T into efficiency. Now the boiler cell thickness, we use this formula, T should be equal to P ds divided by 2 sigma T into efficiency plus corrosion allowance. What is happening, because when the steam is stored inside this boiler cell, what is happening, because of this steam there should be chances that this internal surface will be corroded, and to compensate for this corrosion some allowance we have to add, and that to that allowance we are called as a corrosion allowance. The value of this corrosion allowance is 1.5 to 2 mm. So between these two values, between the range of 1.5 to 2 mm, we can put any value of the corrosion allowance. As far as this stress is concerned, hoop stress is concerned, this should be equal to ultimate stress divided by factor of safety. The factor of safety for the boiler cell is in the range of 4.5 to 4.75. Normally we take this value as 5. As far as the material of the boiler is concerned, normally two grade of steels are used, that is ST37BR and ST42BR, and the value of the ultimate tensile stress is given in the range of 360 to 440 megapascal and 410 to 500 megapascal. Now as far as the efficiency of the joint is concerned, with the help of this table we can find out the efficiency depending upon the type of the joint and depending upon the rivet arrangement. Suppose we are using a double strap butt joint and we are using a single rivet, then the efficiency is in the range of 55 to 60%. If we are using a triple riveted and double strap butt joint, the efficiency is in the range of 80 to 90%. If we are using a lap joint, so the efficiency should be, for the single rivet it should be 45 to 60%. So depending upon this type of the joint and depending upon the type of the rivet, number of rivet. Basically we can decide the efficiency, and we put this value in of efficiency, stress, okay, and the diameter and the pressure here, and we add the corrosion allowance here, and with the help of this formula we got the value of the thickness of the boiler cell. The next is to find out the diameter of the rivet and the diameter of the hole. So diameter of the rivet normally we call as dr, and this can be found with the help of the Unwin formula. So the first thing is, if the thickness is more than 8 mm, so diameter of the rivet should be equal to 6 under root t, where t is the thickness in mm. So the results we got, or the dr we got from this formula, is in mm also. If the thickness is less than 8 mm, so we equate the shearing resistance of the rivet with the crushing resistance, and with equating these two resistance, shearing resistance with crushing resistance, we find out the diameter of the rivet. And in no case, the third is, in no case the diameter of the rivet should not be less than the thickness of the plate. So next is, the diameter of the rivet hole is always more than the diameter of the rivet basically. So what we do, we add 1 to 2 mm in the diameter of the rivet, we got the diameter of the hole by using this formula. Now let us understand the construction of the circumferential lap joint with the help of these two figures. So this upper figure will show the cross section of the circumferential lap joint along the length direction, and here we see that these two plates are overlapped. This green color plate normally is covered with the help of this blue color plate. With the help of the circumferential joint, we can join these two plates together. So there should be an overlap. That means one plate overlap over the other, and the amount of overlap is given as AOL. Now the distance between the two consecutive row of rivets normally we call as a transverse. This is called PT here, and this is the margin here. Margin is normally defined as the distance of the center of the rivet to the nearest edge here. So this is the upper row of rivet, and this is the upper rivet, and the distance between the nearest edge is called M. Similarly, we have the second row of rivet or lower row of rivet, and the distance of this nearest edge is normally called as M. The value of the margin is normally kept as 1.5 to avoid the tearing failure of the plates here, where 1.5 to dr, where dr is the diameter of the rivet basically. If you see the top view of this rivet arrangement, basically it is of this type basically, means all the rivets are arranged in the circumferential direction, and the distance between the two consecutive row of rivet along the circumferential direction normally we call as pitch, that is noting by the symbol P1. Now what is happening, because we are stored steam at pressure Pi inside this pressure vessel whose inside diameter is ds and di, so this force and this area of this cover plate will apply a force on this top side basically, and this force acting on the joints will be equal to area into the pressure. So this is pi by 4 di square, di or ds is same here, the pi by 4 di square into pi, this is the force acting on the joint. Now whenever some force is acting on the joint here on this cover plate, what is happening, there should be chances that these rivets on the left side and the rivet on the right side, they will fail in shear, and this is the case of singles here, because these rivets are failed from the single plane basically. Now we have to equate this force acting on the joint with the shearing strength of all the rivets. So pi by 4 dr square into tau is the shearing strength of the one of the rivet. This is a single shear case, that's why we have taken the single area here, single area of the cross section here, pi by 4 dr square, and we multiplied by n number of total rivets. So this is the shearing strength of all the rivets. When we equate these two values and find out the value of the number of rivets, that n come out to be ds or di divided by dr whole square into pi divided by tau. So with the help of this formula, we can find out the number of rivets used in the circumference. Now next we see how to find out the pitch of the rivet, which is normally denoting by a simple P1. We see that in the previous slide that all the rivets are arranged in the circumferential direction, and the distance between the two consecutive rivets is normally be called as pitch. So we know the efficiency of the circumferential lap joint is sigma L should be equal to least of PT, PS, PC divided by P solid into 100, where PT is the tensile strength per pitch length, PS is the shearing strength per pitch length, and PC is the crushing strength per pitch length. Normally it is observed that out of these three values, the PT value is minimum one. So here we put the value of PT and we put the value of the tensile strength of the solid plate, that is P solids, into 100. So we put the value of PT here. The PT value is P1 minus dr into T into sigma T divided by the P solid means the tensile strength of the solid plate here. What we do, we put the value of dr should be equal to 0. So this is the tensile strength of the solid plate per piston, that is P1 into T into sigma T. Okay, when we solve this expression, we got the value of efficiency of the circumferential lap joint should be equal to P1 minus dr divided by P1. So we put the value of circumferential lap joint efficiency here. It is 62% for intermediate joints, and for the end joints its value is 50% or 42%, whichever is minimum basically. The intermediate joint normally used when we just want to increase the length of the pressure vessel. We join one pressure vessel with the other pressure vessel, then we call that joint as the intermediate joint. And when we have to cover the end of this pressure vessel with the help of the end cover plate, then we take the efficiency as 50% or 42%, whichever is minimum one. So we put the value of sigma L here, we put the value of D here, and from this equation we find the value of P1. This P1 value should lie between P minimum and P maximum value. So P minimum value should be equal to twice times dr, where dr is the diameter of the rivet, and P maximum value should be equal to K into T plus 41.28. We put the value of K here. This K is a constant depending upon the type of the joints and depending upon the number of rivets per pitch length. If suppose we are using a lap joint in case of the circumferential joints and the number of rivet per pitch length is suppose 7, so the K value is 1.31. We put the value of K here 1.31. We put the value of thickness of the pressure vessel, okay, and we got the value of P maximum. So this P1 value should lie between P minimum and P maximum. If this P1 value is less than P minimum value, then we assume pitch as P minimum value, and if this P1 value is more than the P maximum value, then we assume the P maximum value as a pitch of this rivet basically. Okay. After finding out the total number of rivets, now we have to find out the number of rivets in one row. So that is denoted by the symbol NOR, means number of rivets in one row. So we take the circumference and divide by the pitch. So here we understand with this help of this figure. So here we take this complete circumference here. This circumference is the inside diameter is supposed to di. Okay, the thickness here, half thickness this side and half thickness this side. So the diameter of this middle circle is di plus t, clear, and this complete circumference is pi in bracket di plus t. So this is the circumference pi di plus t, and we divide this by pitch, okay, the distance between the two consecutive rivets along the circumferential direction. So this way, when we divide this pi di plus t divided by P1, we got the value of number of rivets in one row. So when we have the total number of rivets, then we have the number of rivets in one row. Now next we have to decide the number of rows. So the number of rows are finding out with the help of this formula, that is NR should be equal to total number of rivets. Okay, this is N and divided by number of rivets in one row. Okay, so NR should be equal to N divided by NOR. Depending upon the number of rivets, we decide whether we have to use a single riveted lap joint and double riveted lap joint. Okay, so if there are two number of rows, so this way the arrangement of this type basically, and we have to find out the transverse pitch in this case. And if there is single riveted lap joint, if number of row is one only, so and then transverse pitch value should be equal to 0. So next we have to find the value of the transverse pitch PT, this overlap AOL, and the margin M. So the transverse pitch, as already we have defined, is the distance between the two consecutive rows of rivet. This is one row of rivet, this is second row of rivet, and the distance between them is called the PT. If it is a single riveted lap joint, then this PT value is 0. Okay, when there are number of rows, then we have to find this value of PT. This margin is M, that normally we has 1.5 dr, okay, on the both the side. And this overlap, when we have the lap joint, then the one plate overlap over the other. So we have to find this value of overlap, that is AOL basically, and this is this distance from this point to this point. This is AOL basically. So first of all, we see how to find the value of the transverse pitch PT when the number of rivets in each row are equal basically. Clear? Because this is first row, this is second row, and the number of row of rivet, okay, we assume as equal. And for zigzag riveting, this value of PT should be equal to 0.33 P1 plus 0.67 dr, where P1 is the this pitch. Okay, this is the circumferential pitch normally we call them. This dr is the diameter of the rivet. For chain riveting, when the two rows of rivets are identical one, then PT should be equal to twice times of dr, where dr is the diameter of the rivet. Okay, the amount of overlap we have to find out with the help of this formula, that is AOL should be equal to PT plus twice times of M. For a single riveted lap joint, this PT value is 0. Okay, because there is only one row of rivet. Okay, and there is no chances of, and there is the value of PT is 0. Clear? And this we have to, so this AOL in case of single riveted lap joint, this will be equal to 2M. We put the value of M, the margin M should be equal to 1.5 dr. Now we have to understand the whole procedure with the help of an example. So we have to design a circumferential lap joint. The data given is this DS should be equal to DI should be equal to 0.8 meter. This is the inside diameter of the boiler cell. So we use the symbol DS or we use the symbol DI. Both symbols are same here. The steam which is stored inside this vessel at pressure 2 megapascal. The efficiency of the longitudinal joint is 80%. The efficiency of the circumferential joint is 62%. The tensile stress is 80 megapascal, shear stress is 60 megapascal, and the crushing stress is 120 megapascal for the rivet material. So as per the design procedure, first of all, we have to find out the cell thickness. So the cell thickness T should be equal to P ds divided by 2 sigma T into efficiency plus corrosion allowance. Okay, so we just put all the value here. We put the value of P here. P is equal to 2 megapascal. This ds or di is same basically. So the value is 0.8 meter. So we put here 0.8. We multiply by 1000 because we convert this into mm. Then divide by 2 into sigma T. Sigma T value is 80 here. We put this value 80 here. Then efficiency of the longitudinal joint is 80%. So this is 0.8. We add the corrosion allowance as 2 in this. In this expression. And we got this formula as 12.5 plus 2. This is 14.5. We approximate this value to 15 mm. So once we know the value of thickness, then we have to find out the value of the rivet diameter. The thickness, as we see, that is more than 8 mm. So we have to use the NWin formula to find out the diameter of the rivet. So dr will be equal to 6 under root t. We 6 under root t. We put the value of t here as 15. Okay, so we got the value 23.23 mm. We round off this value to 24 mm. Okay, so the cell thickness is 15 mm and the diameter of the rivet is 24 mm. After finding out the value of the cell thickness and the diameter of the rivet, we have to find out the number of rivets, and that should be equal to di or ds divided by dr whole square into pi divided by tau. So the value of ds or di means the inside diameter of the cell is 0.8 meter, that is 0.8 into 1000 divided by dr is 24 here whole square. This value of pressure is 2 and the value of the shear stress is 60 megapascal. So this value come out to be 37.03. We can round off this value to 38. So these are the total number of rivets which are used to make a circumferential joint for this problem. Now we have to find out the pitch of the rivet. So the pitch of the rivet can be find out that efficiency of the circumferential joint should be equal to pi minus dr divided by pi. We put all this value here because the circumferential efficiency is given as 62%. So we put here 0.62. We have to find the value of P1, that is dr value is 24 here. So okay, we solve this expression and we find out the value of P1. The P1 value is coming out to be 24 divided by 0.3, that should be equal to 63.15 mm. Yeah, so by using the formula, we have seen how to find out the total number of rivets and how to find out the pitch of the rivet. After finding out the pitch of the rivet by using the formula in the previous slide, now we have to compare this value with P minimum and P maximum value. The value of the P1 should lie between P minimum and P maximum. So the value of P minimum is 2 into dr, this T into 24, that is 48 mm. Yeah, and the value of the P maximum is K into T plus 41.28. The value of K is 1.31 because there should be only one rivet per pitch length, and this is for lap joint. This value is 1.31. From the table we have seen this value. We put the value of T as 15 and we take n plus 41.28. This come out to be 60.93. So we have seen that the P1 value is more than P maximum value. So our pitch for this rivet system is the maximum value of the pitch here, that is P maximum, that is 60.93. We can round off this value to 60. We can round off this value to the nearest lower number, that is 60 here, because if we take this higher value is not permitted because this is the maximum value of the pitch. So we can take some lower value. Okay, we can round off this value to the nearest lower number, that is 60 mm basically. So the pitch of the given system is 60 mm. Now after finding out the pitch, now we have to recalculate the diameter of the rivet here using the same formula, that is efficiency of the circumferential joint should be equal to P1 minus dr divided by P1. So sigma L is 62% here. We put here 0.62. We put here P1 value as 60 and divide minus dr. So when we solve this value, dr coming out to be 24, same as the previous value. Okay, so this way we can redesign the diameter of the rivet. Okay, in this case it is coming out to be same. Now once we find out the diameter of the rivet and the pitch of the rivet, the next step is to find out the number of rivets in one row by using this formula, that is n over should be equal to pi di or ds is same here plus t divided by P1. We put all the value here. The value of di or ds is 800 mm plus 15 mm is the thickness, and divided by 60, so we got the value of 42. Here we see that the number of rivet in one row is more than the total number of rivets, so we assume that the number of rivet in one row is 42. And when the number of rivet is 42 and the total number of rivet is 42, therefore there is only one row of rivet, and for one row of rivet then we use the single riveted lap joint. Now when we use a single riveted lap joint, the transfer speed should be equal to 0 basically. Now next we have to find out the overlap. The overlap is equal to Pt plus twice times of m. The value of Pt is 0 because we use a single riveted lap joint. There is one row of rivet along the circumferential direction. So the value of Pt is 0. This 2 into m, the value of m is margin here, that is 1.5 into dr. So we put this value of dr here. So this is 0 plus 2 into 1.5 dr. The value of dr is 24 here. So 2 into 1.5 into 2, 24. This value come out to be 36 into 2, that is 72. So the value of the overlap here is 72 mm. Thanks for watching this video on circumferential boiler joint design, where we see in this design the step-by-step procedure how to design the circumferential boiler joint design along with the example. So the complete methodology with the help of the example is very well understood. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share and comment.